Hello, everybody. Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, wherever you are in this world. I am here with a very special guest today. I am here with Jack Levin, the founder of the Zen cryptocurrency and one of the first, the first engineers of Google. How are you today, Jack? Good afternoon.
Hello. Very good to see you. It's been a while.
It's been a very long time, man, in crypto years, as you said before, backstage in crypto time, especially with what has transpired over the last 4 or 5 months. It's unbelievable to say the least on what I've seen happen to this ecosystem. But I believe we'll rise out of it in the ashes going forward. So I'm glad to speak with you again, man.
Yeah, me too. Me too. Glad to be here.
Absolutely. And I've been watching your new creation, Zen. I've been watching it. I've watched the community grow. I've watched the ecosystem grow, and I've grown to become very curious about it in a lot of different ways. So before we do that, I want to ask you, like, what have you been up to? Have you been like what since the last time we spoke? Like, what have you been up to? What you been doing?
Just doing Zen every day, I would say, since launch. So we launched on October 8th, and it's been a nonstop roller coaster. And developing new features, working on Zen NFTs, that sort of thing. And I also spent the last couple of months in Hawaii, and we generally spent at least half the year in Hawaii until the ski season in California. So we technically we live here. So so in Hawaii has been really good for introspection and development and all kinds of crypto thoughts. So because it's just because we live in a village outside of a village, so it's Oahu, but it's on the side of an island that's very few people come. And so when you live in a house like this, you know that the largest city is at least an hour away, hour and 20 minutes away. You have nowhere to rush, and so you can concentrate on doing things kind of mentally and really thinking deeply, because you know that no matter what, it's going to take a while to get anywhere. So
Mhm.
it's a good thing that the grocery store is nearby. I mean, we can always get cheese and milk and whatever, M&Ms.
I can't relate to that, but however, we were going to move out of where I am now, which is New York. We decided not to. We were going to move to Pennsylvania,
Mm.
and I went to Pennsylvania, and it wasn't so country like that. It was unbearable, but I got a taste of that where the houses. It was very difficult to have connection. You actually had some type of land. The houses were 10 miles away from the nearest town. So I did get a little taste of that. And I can't believe that it's been more than 2 months now, 2 months in a week that Zen has launched. And, and I want to ask you then, like, for those who may not be familiar with Zen, what exactly is Zen, and how does it work? And I've seen you post on Twitter that it embodies Satoshi's vision of decentralization. How is that the case? Let's say.
Well, the way that is the case, the way I see it,
Mhm.
is that it's the all of the aspects of the Satoshi's white paper within an Ethereum contract, with an exception of the timing of the launch. When Bitcoin launched, nobody knew what Bitcoin was or cryptocurrency was or what blockchain really is. And so it was really concentrated in the hands of first 200 people that participated in the community.
Mhm.
Bitcointalk.org. I was there from 2011 as well, so I just checked. I can still log in there and I check my old messages. So it wasn't a lot of people, and a lot of people, I wouldn't say pre-mined, but they were mining ahead of the world, and they mined quite a bit of Bitcoin. Of course, they sold it off, and it became more distributed over the years. When it comes to Zen, Zen embodies Satoshi's vision on Ethereum, with the exception that it's mostly visible and mostly fair. I would say totally fair, with the exception that some people can pay more for gas.
Mhm.
and can spend more time in front of their computer, making it somewhat skewed towards their interest. So, but it is really a Bitcoin that has the social engaging mechanism built in, specifically the one that works where the more people join the protocol, the more yield of mint you get in the future. So it amplifies the minting, and it tells people that, hey, rather than creating a tribe and shining people off except buying the coin, you can actually get people to mint, and your mints will actually go much bigger at the end, grow much bigger because of that.
Absolutely. And I love how you said social engagement because I think that social engagement and a community is the building block and foundation of any industry, any cryptocurrency project, specifically in this case, because you need that ability to create and drum up support. You need that ability to have backing as your community and as your project grows as well. So I find immense value that you said that. And I've seen the community grow, which has really piqued my curiosity. And I think that it does have that value, that massive value of consistent growth throughout different chains that you've launched on. And you brought up minting. So I'm curious about that because I minted. I think it was either day one or day two. I don't remember. I know it was one of the first few days that Zen actually launched that I minted. I watched the crypto kindness tutorial that he made about how to mint Zen. But for those who may not be familiar with what minting is, for those who maybe are on my channel that aren't familiar with maybe they're new to Zen, maybe they're new to cryptocurrency or blockchain, what exactly is Zen minting, and how do individuals mint Zen? Is it minted the same way on each chain that it's been deployed on?
It's exactly is the same way. The only difference is you need to use the MetaMask connected to that chain using the RPC server or endpoint, and you pay different amount of gas. So
Hmm.
with every Ethereum chain, you pay gas for transactions.
Right.
And so when you mint Zen, technically what you're doing, you're buying Zen from the blockchain itself.
Hmm.
So there's no seller on the other end. The seller is the blockchain that takes your transaction, you pay for gas, and you're given Zen in the future. Now, the options are you minting with a single wallet or multiple wallets, and how long the time period for the mint is? And you can specify, I think right now, up to 435 days. So the longer the duration of the time you specify, the more Zen you get in the future.
Okay.
So it has this delayed gratification aspect that's longer pays better type of thing.
And I found that to be very valuable. I think delayed gratification for many people. I think people need to realize that in this space, you don't. There is this common narrative outside of cryptocurrency, and I think even inside cryptocurrency, that you are supposed to get rich overnight, and I don't believe that to be true. I believe the ones that prevail end up being the ones that are holders, the ones that have the ability to go through the trials and tribulations of different cycles to finally be able to be there when price discovery or valuation occurs for any cryptocurrency project. And that's the universality not just in cryptocurrency, but also outside of cryptocurrency and legacy finance as well. So I find that to be immensely valuable, the notion of delayed gratification. I absolutely agree with you on that. Eh, On the topic of delayed gratification and holding a cryptocurrency, what would you say if I asked you, what is the utility of the Zen token? Like, what incentivizes Zen minters to hold Zen? Like, what would you say?
So I would say it's the future. Specifically, Zen has been designed as a building block for the future cryptocurrency projects. And with Zen FTs or Zen NFTs that we're building the first application layer, the first utility on top of Zen. So we're using proof of burn that's part of the Zen contract to trade or convert Zen by burning it to an NFT. NFTs are rare by definition and by design, where Zen is abundant. So technically, what you're doing is you're converting one token to the other. So you're converting ERC20 to ERC721. And that's the first type of application. Now, there are many other DeFi applications could be designed. For example, proof of stake NFT, where you can stake your Zen and then generate an NFT and then trade that NFT on OpenSea. So you're trading your future stake or your future yield.
Mhm.
And you also embed Zen as part of the NFT by loading in into a different contract. So I would say that anybody who is minting Zen, they're participating in the future applications of what's going to be built on top of Zen. And I would say the Zen launch was relatively simple endeavor. The contract is basic. It's 400 lines of code. It does exactly what it does. It distributes tokens around the world on 10 different chains. But the hard part and the most exciting part is building on top of all of those tokens that are available and people are holding. So, and that's super exciting because you get to address could be one of the largest communities in the world just because this token is so freely available. So you can market to the community and you can enhance the holders' value by building new interesting things. And not just there wouldn't be just our team building. We have other teams that are building right now interesting stuff. So we would encourage the builders out there to build on top of Zen and make it more useful.
I'm very grateful to hear that there's a massive plan to consistently build an ecosystem around this cryptocurrency, around this vision and value, and there appears to be an emphasis on what I see in community building, in multi-chain functionality, because personally, I believe whether it's interoperability of dApps or um, interoperability of dApps, interoperability of cryptocurrency, interoperability of blockchains, I believe that there is inherent value in bringing communities and blockchains together because I don't foresee isolationism as being a calling card of the future in blockchain. I think that isolated projects will most likely be left behind, not universally, but I do believe that you are at a disadvantage without question if you are keeping yourself away from other projects and other specific visions and communities. But I do want to ask this because I know you said that Zen now is launched on 10 different chains, which is created in a very large amalgamated community. I did want to ask you this about LPs. And I think this is a question for a lot of different cryptocurrencies, and I'm curious to hear your perspective on this. How do you think, as Zen garners mass adoption, and it seems like your community is growing consistently, will Zen build liquidity pairs? At such a mass scale, LPs could possibly take advantage to exit out of the token. How do you negate something like that? Like, how do you do that?
Well, we're talking about trading,
Right.
basically. So the with every seller, there's a buyer.
Mhm.
And if that buyer is a newcomer and they don't understand minting, and then eventually they look at things and they're gonna say, what did I just buy? So they're gonna look and research and understand that there is a white paper, there is a project moving forward, and there is a community and a roadmap. And so perhaps they will switch to minting if they wanted to.
Mhm.
And so selling to another person is another way for the network to grow. So that's the way I think about it. Because Zen isn't a pump and dump token since there's no people that are dumping it. I would say people are distributing it to the buyers that are learning about it. And obviously it's a good thing. And ultimately the real value comes from perhaps a few years after or maybe sooner based on the type of projects that are built on top
Mhm.
of this brick, this building block. So Zen is like electricity. Electricity by itself does not do anything. You can't eat it. It doesn't really warm you up unless you power something with electricity, whether it's a light bulb or a heater or a laser beam, anything else that's out there that would use it. So Zen is like that by itself. It's just a community growing token element, a social token that connects people together on the idea that it is a building block of greater things to come.
I really am am very because I grateful to hear the social token aspect, and the reason why is because like I keep saying is that social the building blocks of any blockchain is the utility behind it, is the I mean, not the utility, is the community behind it, and the value proposition that that community specifically brings. And I'm noticing that as a result of Zen being deployed on numerous different layer ones, there are many different philosophies that are intertwined in the Zen community as a result of that, from different layer ones that bring their value and bring their, uh, I guess, blockchain vision and ethoses to your project. So I know that Zen has launched on numerous different layer ones. Like you said, 10 layer ones. So I was going to ask you how many, but you answered that already.
Yeah.
And what would you say if you had to pick so far? What would you say was the most successful layer one launch that Zen has had surrounding the amount of minting and unique wallet addresses being built?
That would be Binance.
Think so? Cool.
Yeah, well, it's not that I think so. I look at the numbers, and Binance is at least 2 times larger in activity versus Ethereum. Now, that just because Zen is more affordable there. It takes about 15 to 20 cents to mint one wallet, where on Ethereum it takes a couple of dollars.
Hmm.
So, however, by the engagement of the people, Zen happens to be more proliferated on
Hmm.
Binance. And then the next one is Ethereum, and then there's other chains out there. OKX seems to be is ramping up rather quickly.
Hmm.
It has, I think, maybe 80 million wallets at this point,
Wow.
which is pretty incredible. And but the value there, it's the latest chain to launch,
Mhm.
and so there aren't that many people on it yet, but they're definitely minting like there's no tomorrow.
How much? What off the top of your head? What are the chains that you have launched on?
I'm gonna have to look, but it's Binance, it's Ethereum, Doge chain, which is kind of interesting in itself. If you go to zen.fii, you can see them all.
I know.
Polygon,
I know you're on Phantom as well.
Phantom, Ethereum Proof of Work, Moonbeam, EVMOS, and OKX.
That's awesome. Congratulations. That's a big deal to launch on that many chains. And those are the most prominent, I'd say, layer ones out there so far. So I find that to be, it, I can only imagine how rewarding that is to be able to welcome new users from different communities and different blockchains into one particular ethos that was created as a result of Zen.
Well, yeah, Zen was meant to be not only a community building, but it also embraces the whole world, all of the chains. So the goal was is to remove the ideological differences and tribalism, and to build a community that participates in this global type of engagement in building new things on crypto. And all of those chains happen to be Ethereum based, so it's very easy to port projects from one to the other.
I appreciate that you said tribalism because I believe wholeheartedly when you look at perspectives on the base of human nature, human beings have always been tribal and they probably always will be, at least for the foreseeable future. But I do believe through cultural diffusion and the exchange of ideas and beliefs in a very respectable manner, there are ways to break down that notion of human nature, to bring about a new type of order where people are able to have their own pre-existing cultures while simultaneously having the ability to appreciate and intermingle with other cultures. And I believe personally that tribalism in blockchain right now is antithetical to the principles of cryptocurrency. And the reason why I say that is simply this: is that you have regulatory compliance infrastructure coming in. You have draconian laws that are coming in, and you have economic despots that have joined this ecosystem, like SBF, for example, and you need that type of unity in this space, especially when people are hurting, especially during a horrible bear market, especially now Bitcoin dominance is rising and alts are starting to bleed again. It's definitely necessary to have that blending of communities. And I think I find that to be very valuable. And I think that's very that'll provide massive um that'll be advantageous going forward.
Yes, for sure. And I think tribalism comes to be from the fact that the crypto communities are so fragmented. They fragmented because they do not find the common ground among themselves, and they're trying to outbuild each other by competing with each other rather than creating protocols that interoperate. And so, I mean, you probably have, obviously, you spoke with Charles Hoskinson and Cardano, and
Uh,
there are differences between ADA and Cardano and XRP
mhm.
and Solana and all those things, right? And you could, I think he mentioned in one of his interviews that when the blockchain technology first started, everybody were very interested and very, very close and very happy in
Mhm.
terms of building new things because everybody kind of were aligned and they were
Yes,
building towards the same similar goals. But as the world got fragmented, which is actually, believe it or not, is a positive thing because fragmentation is like mutation. And this sort of fragmentation gives rises to the technologies that will outcompete something else that is useless and potentially is dangerous for your wallet, so to speak. And we want fragmentation in the early stages of development so that we can come up with the best technology possible.
absolutely. And I hear your entrepreneurial spirit coming out. And I appreciate you bringing that up, because then my next question is to you is a main perspective on your entrepreneurial spirit and in your previous ventures in regards to how that has built on Zen. So, how has your previous ventures in technological development, let's say in association to Image Shack, Google, and Imagizer, been advantageous in the development of Zen? And why do you think this entrepreneurial spirit, in regards to your previous ventures, has been beneficial in regards to expanding Zen?
Well, a very good question. Thank you. Well, I think there's few things that are beneficial. One of the things is my experience with ImageShack.com and Google, um, specifically in the startup culture. You do not start by monetizing the product that doesn't exist
Mhm.
because it just doesn't make any sense.
Right.
Now you do raise money from investors so that you can build something. And generally, what happened with Google is that Google raised money, created a team, they had an algorithm, a search that worked really well, and for the first 2 to 3 years, there was no way to monetize it. In fact, there was no market. It was the time of, I guess, early 2000s where the portals, news informational portals like Yahoo and Yahoo Finance and Alta Vista and Excited Home, those things were the portals to the internet, but not necessarily to the information that you were willing to or wanting to receive, because the search would always bring you back to the portal. And so Google went from this kind of other side and they said, we will build something that is useful to people first and foremost, and then we'll figure out the way how to monetize it. And with ImageShack, it was something very similar. ImageShack was one of the first image hosting websites that was free. So it was free, and you wouldn't even need to register an account. You can just take your image, upload it to ImageHack, get the URL, and then post that URL on some forum or a blog or your own website, whatever you want. And with ImageHack, the monetization came a little bit later through the ad sponsorship. But within 2 years, we reached 60 million uniques, monthly active users. And that's just only been 2 years, which is incredible. Now, back in the day, the internet was much smaller. So ImageHack became number 25 in the world by visitors and usability. And of course, it started to make a lot of money. But I would say that the success there was not to put the dollar sign in front of the user or any sort of a paywall to get people in. And we wanted to grow the community first, or the community of users, and then generate success on monetization. So the same thing happened to Google, and I saw it happen, and the same thing happened to ImageHack. And that is how I have decided to model Zen, following the similar principles, where you build the community first, you build useful tools, and then the value comes by the participation of the community itself. So you don't pre-sell, pre-mine, pre-mint, and then raise the money from the regular folks out there without any sort of functional aspect of your project. So what I would rather do is give free cryptocurrency to anybody who wants to hold it, or to acquire it, or to mint it on 10 different chains, and then have the community build together with us something amazing. And that's where the value really comes.
As an individual who triumphs the notion of community building, and someone who triumphs the notion of the value of social engagement and growth, I find it to be very necessary to have that ability to, like you highlighted very eloquently, the necessary tools second, and you build the community first, because the community first, as a result, will be able to bring people in to the tools that you build second. And allowing that community to prosper enables the growth of the tools, because the tools themselves will be able to have a much higher amount of reach as a result of the community growth. And I think that the problem I see in blockchain a lot is that there are many projects that I see in many layer ones, for example, that put, what's the word, that put community value on the back burner, and they focus on tech. You could build the most revolutionary technology, but if you don't have an industry, if you don't have a community backing your product, you don't have a company. You
Of
don't.
course. Of course.
And that's something that I'm grateful that you have shared, because you've utilized your own personal ability, um, building social communities in the past in regards to your own personal ventures, and that's culminated into the building block of Zen. And Zen, I've noticed, is one of the larger communities that I've seen. It's been out for barely 2 months.
Yeah, exactly right. And I feel obviously privileged to participate in this. And I feel that crypto is one of those interesting things in our world that really can connect people well together, especially today, because you have things like decentralization, first principles, things like Uniswap. And so Zen is really focusing on several aspects. One, reintroduction of first principles, specifically so that people can be resistant to uh, situations like FTX and Celsius
Of
and
course.
whatever else that's coming again in the next bull market. The other thing, obviously, is that with the community, you don't just get the consumers, but you get a lot of creators. Imagine having 100 million people in the community, and let's say 5 or 10% of them are creators.
Mhm.
That's an enormous amount of brain power that could make amazing things, building on top of this type of eco-structure that's being created as we speak. So that's super exciting to me. So it's a long-term project, long-term vision, and I think, given that it's aligned with the first principles, of blockchain, it's really focusing on the right behavior and bringing people into the true crypto, true blockchain, not, for example, to somebody like Celsius, where they say, hey, participate in crypto by giving all your money to us. But then you're not really doing any sort of self-custody. You're saying self-custody is difficult. I'm going to delegate my self-custody to someone else, and then they lose all of your money. So that is a very basic situation. And yet people are falling into the trap over and over and over again. And so Zen's first principle is self-custody. And then the second principle is trust through consensus, and obviously decentralization, and all of those interesting things. And the protocols that could be built on top of Zen could be quite ubiquitous. Whatever is built on Zen can be built on something else entirely also. So it doesn't even need to be Zen specific. Zen could give it a push, but then everybody else can fork the code if it's open source and build new things that are beneficial for other communities too.
Absolutely. And I've seen in 2022 and 2021, I mean, I haven't been in cryptocurrency as long as you have, but I have been involved in it in 2017, since 2017. And I have never, in the history of me being involved in this space, have seen such an antithetical approach to the initial blockchain ideals as I've seen with these centralized platforms like Celsius, for example. You see that and you begin to wonder how these protocols that come in here, like Celsius, that venerate themselves as a company for the people, they utilize this facade of being DeFi, because DeFi has become nothing more than a buzzword with no definition anymore. It's almost like the political ad hominem attack of being called a fascist. You're called a fascist, let alone no one knows what the hell that actually means anymore. It's the same concept, I believe, with the notion of DeFi, that DeFi has been kind of tainted and amalgamated and intertwined with the notion of CeFi. And I don't think a lot of people in this space can not a lot, but many, well, that is a lot. So I'll just say a lot, can't distinguish the different principles of actual DeFi and CeFi themselves. So I personally think that when you say first principles, I find it to be very alarming that those first principles, at least in my opinion, have become unfortunate anachronisms, vestiges of another time. And maybe we'll see a reactionary response to those principles being brought back to blockchain as a result of FTX collapsing, Celsius collapsing, Three Arrows Capital, BlockFi, Genesis. I believe that one thing cryptocurrency needs to do is to go back to its roots. And I think we've gone astray. And I find that to be quite alarming, because the instrument of oppression is to pervert a population to the extent that they become the instrument of their own oppression, because they don't have an ideology to fight for anymore.
That is absolutely right. Very well said. And I think one of the reasons why we humans fall into traps like Celsius and FTX is that those companies are built on the old concepts of centralization.
Mhm.
And so people are used to that. Like, for example, if you're an E-Trade user, you're likely going to be an FTX user as well, just because you're used to trading with E-Trade. But it has nothing to do with cryptocurrency. You're trading an asset that they're telling you it's cryptocurrency. But SBF himself on the recent Twitter Spaces mentioned that when you were trading Bitcoin on FTX, you were just trading against a centralized database. There was no Bitcoin.
Mhm.
It was just a program that was making you believe that you're holding a balance of Bitcoin that will eventually be settled to you should you withdraw.
Mhm.
Now, if everybody withdraws at the same time, that's technically a run on the bank. That's what they call it. And there is no assets to pay. So it's a game that they have created, a trading game that has technically no backing assets and no oversight how those assets are backing your trades. Now, that can never happen on decentralized exchange because you get your asset immediately in your custody. Where with FTX or anything else out there that's centralized, the settlement time is only when you withdraw. But anytime you trade, you're really just trading numbers that don't mean anything. But again, the difference between E-Trade in this situation is that E-Trade follows the government's regulation where they have to maintain certain reserves and balances, and they're backed by certain federally driven insurance companies that require you to actually be able to accommodate any sort of withdrawals should you
Hmm.
decide to do it. No such thing in the Bahamas-based company.
Hmm.
And so, but can you see how attractive it is if you're an E-Trade user to go to FTX?
Hmm.
Super attractive because you don't have to learn anything about crypto, and yet you feel like you're trading crypto until you're not, until everything's gone. And so that's why so many people fall into this trap.
Hmm.
And it's unfortunate, but I almost feel like those are the necessary, painful lessons that people should be learning.
And I absolutely agree with you. I think that an inherent function of the human species is an inherent mindset is that change is instinctually, not ubiquitously, but majorly fearful to the human animal. So when you have legacy finance individuals coming in and utilizing the principles that are already familiarized, that people are already familiarized with, and they amalgamate it with cryptocurrency, like you said, they feel like they're trading cryptocurrency, but they're really not. Um, they're able to juggle the notion of, okay, I still understand the legacy finance principles while I think I'm embracing this new technology. But it's a paradox because the technology of cryptocurrency is, and its principles thereof, are antithetical to the legacy finance principles that you've conveyed. And I think a lot of people don't want to educate themselves on cryptocurrency, whether it be fear, whether it be a turnoff as a result of volatility, as a result of not understanding the intricate, not having time to understand the intricacies of cryptocurrency. Because I think you and I both know that it takes an extremely long time to actually learn about the intricacies of blockchain and cryptocurrency. I've been in this space for 5 years and I'm still learning. So it's definitely it comes down to, I think one of the main themes of this interview is human instinct and the notion of the way humans think and act. And I think that as a result of the tribalism and the fear of change, you then create an atmosphere that's ripe for incidents like FTX and Three Arrows Capital to happen. So I want to ask you this then, in regards to looking forward, because I think that right now we've had an unfortunately very depressing, I'd say, 2 3 months in this space. A necessary washout, a collapse of FTX. We've seen numerous centralized entities, like you've conveyed, Celsius being one of them, collapsing. But I think it's, as you would know more than me, as an entrepreneur, it's important to think in the now, but it's also very important to think in the future. So I want to ask you, where do you want to see Zen in the future? What is the roadmap for 2023? And if you can share, what other chains have your eye surrounding where you want to launch next?
So the chain question is always difficult. Uh, but somebody mentioned Solana should be a good chain to launch
Hmm.
because they have a really vibrant community. Number one, they have cool DeFi space, cool NFT space that they've been developing. Um, so potentially somewhere there or similar to uh, aspects of what Solana is presenting. So the chain should have the community. It shouldn't just be a ghost chain
Right.
or just an experimental chain. But we're not obviously have been opposed to Doge chain.
Hmm.
But the fact that we went to Doge chain is simply uh, was due to it was a novel approach of converting Doge, which is a Litecoin clone, into wrapped Doge or DC that could be used for gas on their chain. So that was quite interesting. And if their community continues to grow, then obviously Zen can play an integral part in bringing the co-developed projects between chains. So that's super interesting. So we're definitely going to be looking into the interchain swap. So ability to do atomic swaps between chains so that you can trade your BZen for Zen between Binance, BSC chain, and Ethereum. So that's definitely super interesting. We're also looking at least 10 different projects to launch on
Nice.
top of Zen. So ZenFTs is this one variety. I talked about staked NFTs. There's also proof of burn NFTs that could be done, and proof of work NFTs too. So proof of work meaning solving an algorithmic puzzle to generate the NFT for you and burn Zen in the process. So that's would be very interesting to do a proof of work on top of proof of stake. And the reason to do that is that there's an abundance of video cards that are sitting around and doing nothing, given that Ethereum have moved from proof of work to proof of stake. So that would be super interesting to generate or mint NFTs by the method of POW. The other things are more DeFi related. Like, for example, you should be able to mint your or create a future mint with an NFT, then stake that NFT and borrow against your future mint. So specifically, there should be a protocol that allows the pool of or liquidity for Zen to be borrowed and then be repaid to get your collateral back. So your collateral would be an NFT that's minting future Zen. Let's say that it's minting 1 billion Zen in the future. If you have done that, and the protocol knows for sure that in 400 days you're going to get 1 billion Zen, you should be able to borrow 300 million Zen today. And when you repay it, you should be able to maybe repay it with interest. And the interest would go towards the people who are depositing Zen as credit towards the borrowers. And the collateral is the NFT. Now, if you don't repay your Zen, then your NFT goes towards a purchaser in the future. So that would be very interesting decentralized protocol that is trustless. There would be no central authority to manage it, and everything will be transparent, open source, and within the contract. And it will give Zen's community liquidity and create the sort of a DeFi schema where you could technically borrow against the future with interest. So everybody wins. Whoever is a creditor, they get their interest plus their Zen back, or they get the collateral.
Wow. So I enjoy hearing, because I'll be honest with you, as humbly with ignorance, I was not well adept prior to this interview about the intricacies of what was being built on Zen. Like I saw Zen NFTs. I was genuinely curious on what that was, and I see a lot of people in the chat discussing Zen NFTs as well. I was under the presumption wholeheartedly that Zen's main focus and only focus was to be able to mint multi-chain. I didn't know that there was this unique ability to be able to build numerous different projects on it. That I could see why the excitement for the future is coming, and I can see why I can see the vision that you have for this project. I know a lot of people who I've seen on Twitter or on even on YouTube, they're disgruntled at valuation. But if you look at a lot of blockchain projects right now, cryptocurrency projects, everything right now is down 80 to 90%. So and I'm starting to understand the forward thinking approach that you're conveying in regards to Zen. So I've learned a lot over the last 45 minutes. I'll tell you
Awesome.
that much.
Awesome. Well, when it comes to Zen's valuation, it's only $4 million. The market cap is 4 million. It's beyond microscopic, which means that no matter what, you're still early.
Right.
Whether you're buying or minting or whatever that you want to do, there are many ways to acquire Zen if you wanted to. You don't have to. You can still have the wait and see approach. However, back to launch of SHIB, it went to multi-billion-dollar valuation over a month,
Yeah.
just because they released the roadmap that made a lot of sense to a lot of people. And
Hmm.
also people felt that SHIB is a clone of Doge, and Doge is very successful.
Yes.
So they have gathered 750,000 wallet holders almost immediately. Or when I say almost immediately, I mean the first year.
Yeah.
And so I am thinking that $4 million in a market cap is really beyond microscopic.
Hmm.
And the supply itself is over 1 trillion Zen right now, but
Hmm.
SHIB has 400 trillion
Yes,
or maybe 500 trillion right now. So that's a lot.
it is.
The unfortunate part of for SHIB is that half of it is held by the founder.
Hmm.
So it dilutes the true valuation, but it also presents a risk of a founder divesting
Hmm.
and taking the money out of the project all into his own pocket.
Right.
Now, whether he will do it or not, or be hacked and the hacker would do it, that remains a very, very significant risk. There's no such risk with Zen because there was no pre-mine or pre-mint, and nobody holds a significant amount of Zen. Everybody's holding Zen in a distributed
Mhm.
fashion. And when we look at Etherscan, we can actually see that there's hardly any singular wallets that maintain even over 1% of Zen. So with NFTs, for example, we have a class of NFTs. There's only 100 of them, and you need to burn 10 billion Zen to mint it. There's only two people that are holding 10 billion each. Two people, and there's 100 NFTs. And if you take 100 and multiply by 10 billion, you get 1 trillion.
Mhm.
Or am I wrong? Yeah.
I did not go to school for math. I went to school for
100,
engineering.
100 times 10 is 1,000, and it's expressed in billions, therefore it becomes 1 trillion. Now the total supply is 1 trillion, so 100 NFTs should be able to eat into 85% of the Zen supply should they all be sold, which actually is not going to happen because people are not going to be giving up their Zen unless it's 100x from now. Who knows, right? That's just speculation. So my point is that the NFTs is like a yin and a yang. So the
Mhm.
yin is the Zen production, and the yang is the Zen burn, which is done to convert Zen to NFTs. So that's a very interesting way to think about it, and it gives the aspect of utility to Zen's production.
Not to mention the fact that I mean I think a lot of people outside the Zen community, including myself, were unaware that Zen has deflationary mechanisms, that has that ability to burn. I was under the presumption that Zen was a strictly inflationary cryptocurrency. I had no idea that there were plans, or not plans, well, plans, um, for future burning deflationary mechanisms, so that you have that healthy mix of inflation and deflation that I think a lot of many layer ones have. I know Phantom has that to begin with.
For you to achieve your Zen, you need to have a yin and a yang.
Yes. Yes, that's very well said. I sense that there is a lot of spiritual philosophy in this technological venture that you have created with Zen. Bringing up yin and yang, bringing up that Taoist principle of equilibrium, of order and disorder. So I find that definitely to be valuable. And all I want to say is, first and foremost, I want to say thank you so much for retweeting my interview
Of
with
course.
Charles. And second is, I'm very grateful that you came on the channel today. And I want to ask you if you wanted to take a few questions in the chat if you have
Yeah.
time.
Yeah, of
Sure.
course. Yeah. Let's do it.
Sure. So all I want to say to everyone in the chat, I see there's 103 of you here, is to please like, share, and subscribe. Please consider sending super chats if you can. If not, I'm grateful that you're here. But please make sure to share this video if you find it valuable. Let me see what questions we have here. The community is constantly being educated about first principles. I agree. Zen education. Um, let's see here. Let me see if I can. So Romanian Dan said, I am a bit confused. We're talking self-custody, but top three holders are exchanges, 45% of the supply.
Okay. Well, the Zen was never uh, created with the idea that first and foremost it would be traded on decentralized exchanges. Decentralized exchanges offered for people to send their Zen to be traded on their platforms. And that's their right to do.
Hmm.
But we, for example, never approached them to do it, and we never paid to for that to be done. So there may be quite a bit of the supply on the CEXs. However, that doesn't mean that they own it. That means that the people that part of their community is trading it. So people choose to do it. And because of the true nature of crypto, we cannot and really should not stop people from what they want to do with their money,
Hmm.
so to speak, or with their crypto. And so that's my approach to it. So, for example, if Coinbase decides to list Zen, I will tweet about it with a disclaimer that there is still a self custody element that is more beneficial for you to hold your own crypto, your keys, your coins, so to speak. So, but I will still tweet about the future listings on the exchanges so that there is more liquidity and ability for people to, for example, to should they want to sell Zen, to sell without ill effects of slippage. And sometimes these places like Coinbase and Qcoin and various other exchanges out there, they have literally more volume, and you will not experience the detrimental effects of selling that you would otherwise on Uniswap should you find a pool that has low liquidity. So there's a plus and there's a minus, and but everything is educational.
Yes. I love the pedagogy aspect of this project. Educational pedagogy is the cornerstone of a strong community, or educational pedagogy is the it creates a atmosphere, an educational paradigm that creates actually a dangerous sentiment. And I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the legacy education system right now. I went to school to be a teacher. I will not teach as a result of that. Um, but I believe education ideals in this particular instance, then discussing the first principles of blockchain, I think first principles of blockchain need to be more than just a reactionary response to centralized infiltration of this space. So I'm hoping that with projects such as Zen and many others that bring back that view of decentralization, that view of no middlemen. So, and we have a question here. If if Jack had one thing that he wanted to create on Zen or for Zen, what would he create personally?
That's an interesting question. Well, whatever I wanted to create, I'm creating. But I would say uh, I would create something that can bring the largest amount of participants to Zen.
Hmm.
That is the holy grail. It doesn't matter how great your project is if there's crickets in the fields and no people. So something that can bring 100 million users to Zen is the goal for the creation. Whatever that may be, it just needs to be experimented with. So that is my everyday focus, is the search for the utility that makes Zen worldwide cryptocurrency.
Okay. And let me ask you this. I saw this question a few times. Um, how do you combat the ability for, let's say, bots to mint Zen? Is there a way to combat that? Is there a way to negate that? How does that work?
There's no bots. There's only people
Okay.
and there's software.
Okay.
So similarly, if you were to like imagine you not having a computer, that does things. Now, a computer is technically a bot.
Mhm.
It's a concentration of invention and thoughts in one device that does many things for you. So a piece of software that people call bot, what it does, it automates your ability to spend money on gas and get more Zen. That's the end of it. So ultimately, it isn't anything that somehow exists by itself or have some sort of AI driven advantage for people that somehow like that software actually makes them more Zen. That is not true. What true is that you could be making Zen without the any sort of help of software, like people would call bots, and just do it by clicking your mouse a million times, or you could click it once and specify the number of dollars that you want to invest into this project by spending it on gas towards the blockchain
Mhm.
and create more Zen for you. So things are fair when it comes to the ability to and desire to spend the number of dollars or your ETH for gas if you choose Ethereum. Now you could be choosing Binance or Polygon. For Polygon, you would be spending Matic, and for Binance, you'll be spending BNB. And on Polygon, it's 5 cents, 5 cents a mint. Is that fair that you're on Polygon and technically making more Zen? I mean, some people think it's not fair, but it's not the fault of Polygon being so inexpensive.
Right. No, I absolutely agree with you. I think that it's not the fault of the chain. I think it's the fault of the individual that's not choosing to utilize that chain.
Yeah, I mean, it's simply a choice. It isn't really anybody's fault, but
Mhm.
there is a common misconception that somehow the software that helps you
Mhm.
puts you towards an unfair advantage
Mhm.
versus the rest of the people. But I would say that coin tools, for example, is freely available for people to use. NFTs will bulk mint too, so they have this built-in capability to spend as much gas as you want on your NFT and therefore create more mints in the future.
Mhm.
So that software is going to be widely available. And we're still only 60 days in with the project. So I wouldn't say that there is an unfairness being built in. And even if there was no software, it's still, you can't say that somebody has more money, therefore the world's unfair. That's just the world we live in.
Absolutely. And Jim Rat has a question here. Jack, how do you combat someone that is unfortunately paying gas fees all day?
I think it was a rhetorical question.
Oh, it was. Okay. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm
But
sorry.
well, if there is an answer to that, I would say go do something else or spend more of your money on gas, right? I mean, there's those two options.
Okay.
Do nothing or do everything to spend more money. So
Okay.
I mean, people are crazy. They end up spending all kinds of amounts on something that isn't worth doing just because they want to.
No, Jim, I see you said, "Don't do me like that, bro." I swear to God, I thought it was a, I thought it was a question. I swear to God, I really did. Uh,
It's cool.
Embarrassing.
That's fine.
So let's see what else question we have. I know Jim Rat said, which I know that you had a very interesting conversation with KG about psychedelics, and I don't do them anymore, but I did have my fair share of psychedelic experiences. Um,
Life is a trip.
it is. It is. 'Cause I know.
Especially in crypto world.
Oh God, yeah. I know Jim Rat's asking what's your favorite type of mushroom, and it's like I know you had a very interesting conversation um, with KG about the notion of psychedelics. So that is
Yeah.
very interesting.
Yeah.
So I want to ask you this then, Jack. This is a really really good question. Um, ask him who he Jim Rat says ask him who he looks up to in business.
Oh, that's simple. Elon Musk.
Cool, cool. It
Yeah.
seems like yeah, you guys seem very similar in your approach and your idealisms. I've noticed from this interview. Moving people forward technologically, emphasizing community and truth. So I think that's immense value there.
Thank you.
So yeah, no problem. So I want to say, I don't want to keep you much longer. I know we've been here for a little over an hour. So all I want to say, Jack, is I really appreciate what you're doing. I want to say thank you so much for your time. I'd love to have you on sometime in the near future again to talk about how Zen is moving along in 2023. Um, and all I want to ask is if the people in the chat to like, share, and subscribe. And most importantly, I want to say thank you, Jack. If anybody has not followed Jack on Twitter, please consider doing so. I have it in the description. I have Zen's Twitter in the description. I have the Zen Network website in the description, and I also have the Zen Telegram in the description. So if you guys are interested in Zen, go check that out on Telegram and all the other socials that I shared. So I want to say, Jack, thank you so much for your time today, man.
Yeah, yeah, likewise. Thanks for having me over. Very nice discussion, and let's do it again sometime.
Absolutely. No, I'd love to have you. You get to see my famous outro now. I have to get up. But
All
yes,
right.
I'd love to have you sometime in the near future. I think this was a very necessary and no pun intended Zen conversation. Um,
Zen stream.
I enjoyed the sentimental notion of the stream.
Sentimental.
Thank you so much, Jack, for your time, and thank you everyone who participated. Jack, I hope you have a wonderful rest of your week and have a great holiday. If I don't speak to you,
Awesome. You do
cool.
too. Take
All
care.
right, cool.
Bye.
Bye.